Why Trump's criminal prosecution is wrong and will backfire on Biden and other former presidents. According to the New York Times article, a prosecutor has a good chance of finding at least one legal violation of some act on the part of almost anyone. You probably were not the one who found the news of the criminal charges against Donald Trump a little strange. How could such a major news story, the first criminal indictment of an American president, be about something so, at least seemingly, inconsequential? This is from Ankush Kardori from New York Times, and he says, the former U.S. president has not been charged with trying to overturn the 2020 election, or with an egregious financial fraud to increase his fortune, or even with allegedly obstructing special counsel Robert Mueller's Russia investigation, which many once believed he was the best prosecutor to ensnare the former White House occupant, the president. Instead, Manhattan U.S. Attorney Alvin Bragg, a Democrat, and his team of prosecutors took the country back 6.5 years in the final weeks of the 2016 election, when Trump paid off Swashbuckler star Stormy Daniels to prevent her from going public with a story for an affair she said they had while he was married. Details of what the indictment contains remain unknown. Its contents will be unsealed after Trump surrenders. However, the former president is also expected to be charged with falsifying business records regarding payment of this. It's not clear how this case will end. Regardless of what the exact charges are, the prosecution will raise unusual and arguably new legal issues. Michael Cohen, who appears to be the key witness, may not be so credible after all to convince a jury to convict Trump, even in Manhattan. The Republicans are already making an effort to paint Bragg as a political hack who is weaponizing his office to oust the former president on behalf of Democrats. But at least one thing seems clear. Bragg may be the first local district attorney to do something like this, but he probably won't be the last. Every district attorney in the U.S. will now feel free to audit, criminally investigate, and prosecute presidents after they leave office. Democrats currently cheering the charges against Trump may feel differently if or when a Democrat, perhaps even President Biden himself, ends up in the same position as any of the thousands of district attorneys who have been elected offices and who are willing to make a name for themselves by prosecuting the former president of the United States. The vast range and diversity of criminal laws across the country provide many opportunities for such acts. As Attorney General and later Justice Robert Jackson observed more than 80 years ago, he said a prosecutor has a good chance of finding at least one technical violation of some act on the part of almost anyone. And he adds, it's not a matter of discovering the commission of a crime and then looking for the man who committed it. It's simply about selecting a person and then looking for the legal windows or the investigators who will work to bring charges against them, end quote. Hunter Biden, for example, is accused of similar conduct, including whether he and his family members properly accounted for their business income. That has drawn the attention of federal investigators and congressional Republicans and could support an investigation under Delaware laws that prohibit falsifying business records and filing false documents in the U.S. Senate. Delaware is a solidly Democratic state, so this particular possibility seems unlikely, but elected prosecutors in heavily Republican districts could find similarly creative ways to target the family of a Democrat former president, particularly if the president or his wife or another member of his family has national or international business and financial transactions. Florida and Texas, for example, have various criminal accounting statutes that prohibit certain types of financial and business misconduct, including criminal fraud statutes that a prosecutor could allege were violated, as if it is even a hint that a president misled someone in the state during a financial transaction, or that a president used financial institution in the state of some questionable transaction. For example, suppose the same former president ran a business or nonprofit organization that arguably inflated its financial position in order to secure office space. This could form the basis of an investigation into whether he committed a crime by fraudulently obtaining funds or credit. And if someone like Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, a Republican no stranger to accusations of illegal and unethical behavior, could orchestrate such an effort, is there really any serious doubt he would not? There are indeed significant legal hurdles facing prosecutors who might want to charge a former president for official acts, but there are many areas that remain vulnerable to scrutiny even during the presidency itself. For example, each president travels around the country campaigning or otherwise raising funds and making various stops for official meetings. Let's say a candidate orders his motorcade to speed to an event and it leads to a fatal car accident, or instructs the organizers to put extra people into a venue that has exceeded its capacity. If someone loses his or her life, is it possible to see a manslaughter investigation and prosecution later? A Florida press law makes libel a crime. If Biden leaves office and criticizes Trump or another prominent figure in the state of Florida in writing, he will be vulnerable to prosecution. Will he be vulnerable to prosecution? These probabilities are impossible to fully predict. After all, Trump probably never considered that paying a risque movie star to keep quiet using his company money would make him vulnerable to prosecution in Manhattan. The most obvious and logical approach, at least for Biden, would be to instruct his Attorney General to cooperate and coordinate with Bragg and Fani Willis, the district attorney investigating Trump in Fulton County, Georgia, assuring them that the Justice Department will conduct thorough criminal investigation into Trump's businesses, his business dealings, and his efforts to overthrow the 2020 election results. By doing so, Biden could not only mitigate the legal uncertainty and controversy currently underway with Trump, he could also protect himself and his Democratic successors from retaliation. However, the president does not appear to have taken those steps, leaving both prosecutors in the license and arguably the imperative, given their responsibilities to their constituents, to go after the former president for any questionable behavior within their jurisdictions. There's probably not much Biden or other presidents can do to mitigate these risks, except perhaps to try to limit as much of their unofficial activities, where they live, where they vacation and do business or nonprofit work, to states and localities that will feel safe. But that too is a bleak prospect. An American where presidents avoid states where people disagree with them, in the long term, in America, in the long term, it may also limit the ability of the Democrats and Republican parties to field presidential candidates in states they are not decidedly blue or red. For now, both parties would do well to keep tension around the Trump impeachment low, at least so that their constituents don't convince themselves that this should become part of the standard political toolkit. If Bragg, as expected, continues to deal with a case revolving around falsified business records, the charges against Trump will be moderate in momentum. Neither will they prevent him from regaining the White House if he wins re-election, nor will they result in a lengthy prison sentence if he's convicted. We should all let the case go through the courts until it comes to an ordinary resolution, and whatever the outcome. And this by Ankush Kodari. He's a former prosecutor, and I've translated this for you from a Greek article. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box